Right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Skoufis. I'm the state senator for where we are here in Orange County. I'm pleased to be joined by my assembly counterpart and friend, Assemblyman Carl Rabinek, who we'll hear from, the town supervisor, Denise Quinn. We'll also hear from a number of first responder leaders here in the community and the county, including the Orange County Fire Coordinator, Vinnie Tancaselli, as well as the chief here at Slate Hill, Michael Dowley. Obviously, everyone here is aware of the horrific tragedy that occurred last week, and it's really the worst case scenario when we all think about putting our children on school buses. We think that is among the safest places they could be, and we'd like to think that they are in the best hands in being transported from point A to point B. But for those children and their chaperones who were traveling through Orange County last week, the worst case scenario did happen. And before we get into anything else, our hearts break and our hearts certainly go out to those Long Island families that have been both most immediately impacted, but let's not also lose sight of the trauma and the grief that even if they didn't lose someone in their family, that all those children, all those families, the entire school district is suffering through. So our hearts, and certainly we send our prayers out to each of them. We have in Wawayanda, and Assemblyman Rabinek and I, we're new to representing this particular town, the town of Wawayanda. Redistricting just took place, and as of January, we're their new representatives. But this is not an issue, it's not a new issue, the one that we're about to speak about. The Slate Hill Fire Department and other companies and departments in this area and the town of Wawayanda for over 20 years have been asking for what's called a crash gate out onto I-84. And the reason why they're looking for that access route onto I-84 is because there's over 10 miles of roadway in between the nearest access points, one in Middletown and the other heading east to the other part of Orange County. And so Slate Hill has to travel miles and miles and miles to one of those two other access points, entrances, traditional on-ramps, and then miles backtracking onto I-84 to get to the scene of an accident. And it goes without saying, everybody knows that in instances like the one that we saw last week, every minute, every second matters and counts. And folks in elective politics, politicians like to talk about all the time how much we care for, how much we support our firefighters, our police, our first responders. And yet our first responders here have been begging and pleading for over 20 years to get an access route so that they can better serve the community and save lives. And so we're gathered here today in the aftermath of this tragedy last week to make it loudly and clearly known that we're done waiting. And so we are calling on the federal government, the FHWA, which has jurisdiction over approvals for these types of access routes on interstates. We're calling on the DOT and the governor's office to urge with all expediency their federal partners to act, and importantly to fund this crash gate. And we're not going to stop until we see this through, because incidents like the one that we saw last week require immediate response time. And so I want to thank all of the first responders. If there was one thing from last week that we can be proud of, it's that Orange County's finest, our volunteer firefighters, our EMS, our Orange County EMS and our local EMS agencies, they are the best in the business. And they did yeoman's work last week in saving lives. Without them, Lord knows how many more lives would have been lost. But they deserve all the resources and tools necessary to best do their job, including this access gate. So I want to give a little bit of history here. The jurisdiction over I-84 has flip-flopped all over the place. It was DOT jurisdiction for 16 years. It was New York State Thruway Authority jurisdiction. Then it came back to DOT. Now the federal government has approvals over the access routes like the one that we're talking about here. And so I just spoke with DOT again this morning. In the next several weeks, the coming weeks, we are going to be submitting a local application to the newest now actor of jurisdiction, the federal government. And again, we're calling on the full powers of the state, the governor's office and DOT, to get behind that application and to fund this crash gate. And so, again, I want to thank everyone who's here. I want to especially thank our first responders. It's impossible to calculate how many lives over the years and forthcoming would and will be saved by this crash gate. But lives will be saved by this crash gate. And so let's get it done. 20 plus years is unacceptable to be waiting for something this basic. And this isn't some luxury, this isn't something that the firefighters here would just like to have. This is something they need to do their job as volunteers. And that's the message that we're working to get across to everyone involved right now. I now want to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Assemblyman Brabenek, who will be coordinating on all these efforts with me and the town and the local fire department here. Carl?
Thank you, Senator. Again, my name is Assemblyman Carl Brabenek. I represent the 98th Assembly District, which encompasses Western Orange County and Northwestern Ramapo and Rockland County. Like the Senator has said, we have both taken over this particular jurisdiction in the town of Wayweonda this past January when we took our oaths of office. But no matter if it's here or it's anywhere in Orange County, anywhere in Rockland County, my office, the Senator's office, Senator represents Orange County. We are the advocates for our residents. We are the advocates for the people. We are the advocates for our first responders. And what we are going to do in the next coming weeks, like the Senator said, is we are going to reach out to all actors, the governor's office, DOT, also the federal government, our congressman, Congressman Pat Ryan. Anywhere we can go to get this and make this a reality, we are going to do it. And I just want to thank all of our first responders behind me, the whole Slate Hill Fire Department, all the mutual aid that came out last week. They did such a wonderful job with a lot of times limited resources, and they made sure that lives were saved, especially all the children that were on that bus that I'm happy to hear they will be recovering from this. It's going to be a long road for them, for the next few years, maybe possibly a few decades, and maybe the rest of their lives. But we're going to make sure in the state that those resources are available for those students as well. And we've been in contact with our colleagues down in Farmingdale that represent Farmingdale to offer our assistance for both of our offices to make sure that those resources are available for everyone. So again, it is super important that we get this done. 20 years, completely unacceptable. We're talking 2003. I know the former senator, Senator Bonasek, who represented the area, had been working on this for quite a while until he retired in 2018, and then unfortunately it did not move forward at that point. And then also, like the Senator said, with the confusion of the agency swapping on who's getting the jurisdiction back and forth, did not help matters as well. However, that ends today. We are moving forward and we are going to get this project done. There are a number of sites that can be looked at by the DOT, by the Federal Highway Administration, to see which site is the best one for access. Every single second counts for our first responders to get to those accident scenes. And this is how they save lives. We're going to help them. We're proud to help them. And again, thank them for their service. I'd like to call up now the Town of Wayweonda Supervisor, my good friend, Denise Quinn.
Thank you, Assemblyman. I echo what the Assemblyman and the Senator said. The first responders did an incredible job. Every day they go out there, they take time out of their day and save lives, and we're very fortunate. I want to thank the Assemblyman and the Senator for working so quickly to take up this cause for the crash gate for the Slate Hill Fire Department. We're very lucky to have them representing us. Next, I would like to introduce Orange County Fire Coordinator, Vinnie Tankiselli.
Thank you, Denise. In emergency, as it's been stated before, minutes count. Time means everything. It's really the difference between life and death. And when I first took this position over, it was about 11 years ago, and I came into these conversations that had been going on for 20 years, as I stated before. The Slate Hill Fire Department leadership at that time begged for this crash gate. They explained how critical it was. Since the years have gone past, I've been to many incidents out on 84. Chief Daly of Slate Hill Fire Department will come up and talk about a few of those. One of them I recall was another fatal accident where we lost 3 people, one being a young teenager. So that's just one example, obviously highlighted from the accident last week. You see how dangerous it can be and how critical the incidents can be. Slate Hill Fire Department does a tremendous job. They did an amazing job at the accident last week, along with all the other agencies. They train for this every day. They're one of our best trained departments in Orange County. They're outfitted well, and they have great manpower. And it's time that we stand behind them and help them do what they need to do to get the job done and protect our citizens. So, and all the people passing through. I want to thank the Senator, Assemblyman, and Town Supervisor for their support. And I'll now introduce Chief Mike Daly, Slate Hill Fire Department.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for finally giving us this opportunity. As everyone knows by now, basically we began working on this in 2003, so it's about 20 years, just over 20 years. And almost each year since then, we've followed up on this request. We've written letters to the state, we've written letters to some of the politicians in the past, but a shovel has never been put in the ground, obviously. A little bit of history of how we work and some of our operating procedures is that we are a 100% volunteer fire department, like almost every other department in this area. When we are dispatched to an incident, whether it's on Interstate 84 or it's a local road somewhere within our fire district, our firefighters respond to the firehouse in their personal vehicles, for wherever they may be. Some are at work, some are at home. Wherever they are, they respond to the firehouse. At that point, they board our necessary apparatus. They drive for close to 10 minutes if it's an incident on 84, and that's simply to gain access onto 84. They gain access at exit 15 in the next fire district, which is the New Hampton Fire District. At this point, they must double back to the incident scene. This is approximately 5 to 10 minutes, depending if it's east or westbound. Also, in a situation like we had the other day, there tends to be a lot of traffic that they encounter. If the road has been shut down due to an incident, we have to battle through this traffic to get to the incident scene. Our planned location of the crash gate will cut valuable time off our initial response, and it would place us closer to the center of our fire district. There's been multiple locations spoken in the past, and as far as what the best one would be, we have a couple options, but one of those locations, it would provide us with an access point that would let us go east or westbound in a situation like we had the other day. It's impossible for me to determine how the outcome of last week's horrific accident would have changed by having this entrance, but I can confidently say that each and every minute is crucial. The first hour after the occurrence of a traumatic injury is known as a golden hour. It is considered the most critical for successful emergency treatment. And each year we respond to the interstate an average of 35 times, which may not sound like a lot, but it's close to once a week. And it's about 10 minutes that we can save each time we go out there. It's a shame that we're here only today speaking on this subject because of the fatal accident last week, which, mind you, is the third fatal accident that we've had on that stretch of road in the past 3 months. I appreciate the continued support from Senator Skofis, Assemblyman Brabenec, and the Town of Way Beyond Supervisor Quinn. It's been 20 years in the making, and I hope that we can get something going and get a shovel in the ground soon.